He thought high school would define him forever. Back then, he was the king. He ruled the school with an iron fist. Everyone knew him. Everyone feared him. And somehow he was untouchable. But 10 years later, the tables turned. The one person he tormented the most came back. He didn't come back for forgiveness or to be friends. He came back for revenge. He wanted to make the bully pay for what he did to him. The bully had no idea what hit him. He thought high school was just a chapter in his life, not the whole story. He thought he could just bully people and get away with it. But he was wrong. Very wrong. This is the story of how the high school bully finally got what he deserved. Do you know any high school bullies? Share your thoughts below. There's this small American town where high school was everything. Friday night football games were like religious events. The homecoming king and queen were celebrities. And if you weren't popular, you basically didn't exist. And this was especially true if you were a guy named Jason. Jason was the golden boy, captain of the football team, adored by all the teachers and most of the students. But not everyone. There was one student who hated Jason's guts, and that was Alex. Alex was scrawny, not very bright and very shy. He didn't have many friends and he didn't really want to be popular. He just wanted to get through high school without being miserable. But Jason made that impossible. He would shove Alex into lockers, trip him in the hallways, make fun of him in front of his crush. And no matter what Alex did, Jason always made sure to make his life miserable. The worst part was the teachers never stopped him. To them, Jason was the star player, the one who would bring home the championship trophy. Alex was just another nobody. So when graduation came around, Alex was more than happy to walk across that stage and get his diploma. As soon as he got it, he walked out the door and never looked back. He had no plans for the future, no hopes or dreams. All he knew was that he never wanted to see Jason or that town again. Meanwhile, Jason was celebrating with his friends, talking about how he was going to miss high school, how he was going to miss playing football with his best friends. Little did he know, Alex was watching him from afar. He had a job at a local gas station, the same one his dad worked at before him, and every night after work he would come back to that field and practice his throws. He wasn't trying to become famous or go to the NFL. He just wanted to get stronger, wanted to prove to himself that he could do something great. He didn't tell anyone he was doing this, not even his family. He knew they'd only worry, and deep down he was scared too, scared that if people found out he was still in town, they'd drag him back to that school and force him to socialize. But Alex didn't care. He was finally happy with who he was, with where he was in life. And that's all that mattered. Because even though he might have been out of sight, he was definitely not out of mind. It took him years to get back, but he was finally ready to take Jason down. How? Well, that's for next time. See you then. Years passed. Alex worked harder than anyone expected. He left the small town, got through college, and built his life from scratch. The nights of humiliation fueled him. The pain of being powerless became his motivation. While Jason was busy reliving his glory days, Alex was climbing. 10 years later, Alex wasn't just surviving, he was thriving. Successful, confident, respected. Jason's life told a different story. He dropped out of college, bounced from job to job, and barely held things together. To the town, he pretended to be the same hero. But in truth, he was drowning. He walked into the bar where they'd had their first date. Back then, it had been different. He'd been a star player with a scholarship and a bright future. She was just a small-town girl who liked the new guy in school. He'd treated her well, or so he'd thought. Turns out she'd only liked the idea of him, not the real Jason. He sat at the same table where they'd had that fight, the one where she'd called him a monster. Funny how things changed. Now he was the monster and she was the victim. What had he done? He'd wanted to protect her. He'd been a hero then, but all people saw was his anger. He'd come back to prove to her, to everyone, that he was more than his anger issues. He was a champion. He'd show them. He could still throw a mean spiral. He was still fast, maybe even faster. He could run circles around that little town just like he used to. Only problem was, Alex had gotten bigger things in his life. College hadn't been kind to Janson. All those pills he'd taken for his knee had put him on a different path, one that led to dropping out, dead-end jobs, and a trail of bad decisions. He looked at the worn-out playbook in his hands, the one they'd given him when he'd left for college. All these plays, all this strategy, it had been his life once. Then it had become his prison. He walked out of the bar, past the high school where he'd once been a legend. Now the new guy was a legend. People still talked about Alex. They still put up the banners. They still sold the merchandise. Janson stopped by the lake, the place where he and Alex had fought. Only this time, he wasn't with Alex. He was alone. All alone. He threw the playbook into the water. It floated on the surface, then disappeared beneath the waves. Maybe it was time to stop pretending. Maybe it was time to face his demons, to finally grow up. And then Alex returned. Walking into his hometown again felt different this time. He wasn't the shy, broken kid anymore. He was sharp, fearless, successful. When Janson saw him, he smirked, tried the same old tricks, the same cruel jokes. But something was different. The same classmates who once worshipped Janson now looked the other way. Some even whispered, "That's Alex. He actually made it." Janson didn't know it yet, but his reign was over. The years had been kind to Alex. His looks had matured, becoming almost classically handsome with high cheekbones and a jawline that could cut diamonds. His eyes, though, still held a hint of mischief, the kind that made you wonder what kind of trouble he was up to. People in town knew him as the kid who left, and made it big, the kid who beat Janson Cole, the town's golden boy. They didn't know the half of it. He was back for his high school reunion, but really he was back to finish what he started. Janson was still the arrogant jock, still a small-town king, except the crown was slipping. Alex strolled through the crowded reunion, nodding to people he barely knew, feeling their surprised stares burning into him. He hadn't changed. They had. Their faces, once filled with youthful promise, were now etched with the harsh lines of reality. Broken dreams and faded hopes. It was a stark reminder of what he'd escaped. He spotted Janson across the room, leaning against the wall, watching him with amusement. Janson was surrounded by his usual cronies, the guys he'd tormented Alex with for years. The sight of them brought back a rush of anger, the kind that made his fists clench. He could feel the familiar pull to confront them, to make them pay for what they did. But he resisted it. This time, he wouldn't give them the satisfaction. He was here to take back his life, not to prove himself to those who never believed in him. As the night wore on, the whispers followed him like shadows. "Did you hear he was offered a book deal?" one said. "I heard he's dating a supermodel. If that's true," another added, "I think Janson's scared of losing his title as top dog." Alex didn't feed into the gossip. He knew why they were here, why everyone was here. They were here for the homecoming king and queen, the golden couple, Janson Cole and Brittany Pierce. As the MC announced the winners, a hush fell over the crowd. Brittany and Janson, hand in hand, walked onto the stage, their faces beaming with that familiar, sickening sweetness. Then came the crowning moment. Janson, with a microphone in hand, turned to Brittany and said, "You know, there's someone I have to thank for this night, someone who made it possible." All eyes were on him. Who was he talking about? Was it Brittany's parents, the popular local couple who had pushed their daughter into Janson's arms from the time they were toddlers? Or was it the town's elite, the ones who had showered Janson with enough adoration to make him invincible? "You know who you are, Alex," Janson said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You're the reason I am who I am today. You gave me the motivation to become the best." And then, as if the spotlight wasn't on him already, Alex stood up. Alex could have walked away. He'd accomplished everything he set out to do. His life was good. But he remembered all the bruises, the laughs at his expense, the lonely nights. He didn't just want to move on. He wanted justice. The perfect moment came at the 10-year high school reunion. The gymnasium was decorated with old trophies and faded pictures of smiling faces. Janson strutted in, bragging about his business, his success, his perfect life. But Alex knew the truth. When it was time for speeches, Alex stepped forward. Calm, confident, collected. He began with his own story, how he left town, worked hard, and built a new life. The room listened. Then he turned to Janson. He exposed all the lies, the debts Janson had buried, the jobs he had lost, the fact that he wasn't a hero, just a bully who peaked in high school. Every secret Janson tried to hide was laid out, piece by piece. The crowd that once cheered for him was silent. Some even laughed. For the first time in his life, Janson felt powerless. He stayed in his hometown, got a job at the water park, and married his high school sweetheart, had 2 kids, a dog, and a mortgage. He was Mr. Perfect, the guy everyone looked up to, the guy who always had an answer, the guy who never failed. Behind closed doors, he was a monster. After the reunion, people stopped returning Janson's calls. His business partners dropped like flies. Even his wife's family disowned her. No one wanted to be associated with him. One day, Janson found himself at a bar, drowning his sorrows. Suddenly, he felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned around to see Alex. "You okay?" he asked. Janson burst out laughing. "You ruined my life," he said, his voice shaking with anger. "I don't care," Alex replied, sipping his drink. "You had it coming." This story is from an app. Janson tried to fight back. He tried to shout, to argue, but it was too late. The mask was gone. His old teammates walked away. Former friends shook their head. Even the teachers who once protected him now avoided his eyes. Alex didn't need to yell. He didn't need to fight. He simply stood there, letting Janson collapse under the weight of his own failures. The bully was now the joke, and the victim was finally free. Janson had always been the biggest, strongest guy in school. He was a star player on the football team and the son of the head coach. No one wanted to mess with him. That is until Alex transferred to the school. Janson had never seen someone move like Alex. He was graceful, swift, and strong. He wasn't the biggest guy, but he was definitely the most athletic. At first, Janson thought it was funny to mess with the new kid. But when he realized that Alex wasn't scared of him, he got pissed. Janson tried to intimidate Alex, to scare him, to make him quit the team. But all he did was piss Alex off. For the first time in his life, Janson was being treated like a chump, and he hated it. So he did the only thing he thought he could do. During practice one day, Janson took Alex down hard. He tackled him, sending him crashing into the ground. The other players and the coaches cheered, but Janson's moment of triumph was short-lived. Alex got up, brushed himself off, and walked over to Janson. In front of the entire team, Alex ripped off Janson's helmet and punched him right in the face. Blood started pouring out of Janson's nose. He fell to his knees, defeated. The other players were shocked. No one had ever stood up to Janson like this before. They stared at Alex in disbelief as he walked away from Janson and went back to his position. From that day on, things were different. Janson was a shell of his former self. He tried to act tough, but everyone saw through him. They knew he wasn't the same after what Alex did to him. Janson tried to fight back. He tried to yell, to argue, but it was no use. The damage was done. His reputation was ruined. Now, whenever Janson walked through the halls, people would laugh at him. They'd point and make fun of him. Even the teachers ignored him. Janson became the school's biggest joke, and Alex didn't care. He didn't do it to hurt Janson or to embarrass him. He just stood up for himself. But Janson's pride and arrogance got in the way, and now he was paying the price. The bell rings, signaling the end of another grueling day at school. But for Alex, it's not just any ordinary day. It's the day he's been dreading, the day he has to face his bully, Janson, at the student reunion. As he makes his way through the crowd, memories of being tormented by Janson and his gang flash before his eyes. The tormentor becomes the target as Alex confronts Janson, ready to make him pay for his past misdeeds. But when Janson boasts about his plans for world domination and mentions his evil organization, Alex realizes he's up against a monster, not just a bully. Determined to protect the people he cares about, Alex fights back, refusing to be intimidated by Janson's threats or his army of goons. As the fight progresses, it becomes clear that Janson's strength lies in his followers' fear of him. When Alex manages to break free from the goons and get close to Janson, he discovers that the bully is nothing more than a scared and lonely kid. Despite the opportunity to inflict maximum damage, Alex chooses to walk away. He doesn't destroy Janson's life because he knows true strength isn't about causing harm. It's about rising above fear and standing up for what's right. In the end, Alex leaves the reunion with his head held high, not because he destroyed Janson's life, but because he proved that real strength isn't built on fear. It's built on perseverance. Janson, on the other hand, is left to face the consequences of his actions. The people he once bullied rally together, finding strength in their shared experiences and forming an unbreakable bond. They confront Janson, making him pay for what he did to them. And as for Alex, he moves on with his life, knowing that he made a difference and that the pain he endured was worth it. High school might have been a nightmare, but it didn't define him. What he did after did, and sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't destruction, it's success. The ending of this story is a great lesson for us all. We all experience fear, and sometimes we let that fear control us. But as Alex showed us, the best way to overcome fear is to face it head-on and stand up for what's right. So, what are your thoughts? How would you deal with a bully? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more amazing stories.